Hello, Erica. And I agree. Erica and I are close friends. And in fact, one of the friendships I value enough to notice when you don't message me.
Yes,
Don't
yes,
tell,
very
don't
much
tell,
so.
don't tell people that that's a thing, though.
No, but it is a thing. Come on,
Well,
the people
I
that
just
are
tell them I'm
closest.
too ADHD not to notice. Like that's my excuse.
Um, so we were having a very interesting discussion, and we cut it. We just completely cut the discussion um, this week because we wanted to talk about sci-fi. We were in the middle of discussing sci-fi shows, and we both realized, this is kind of something that should be public discussion. Kind of needs to be public discussion. So we're here today to have that discussion instead of just in private. Give me a second. Oh, apparently Mel didn't hear any greetings from
Uh
me.
oh. Oh, but did she hear him from me?
We'll see.
All
Uh,
right.
mm, Audience mix. Give me a second. I need to go check the YouTube.
Patiently waiting.
Yes. The YouTube. Yeah, I'm hearing stuff now. Okay. Doesn't matter. I will listen back later and correct things if I need to. Okay, so I believe where we were. Um, oh well, Alexis says that she hears the audio just fine. Whatever, it's fine. So where we were in our discussion was discussing 90s and 2000s sci-fi shows. Actually, we were specifically on uh, the theory of where to start in the show or in any given sci-fi show. Um, and I believe Liz has watched Deep Space Nine. Yes.
Mm-mm. No,
No.
my sci-fi stories that I've watched have been huge Stargate fan, and like honestly, I feel like that's all that I should actually need. But
Okay.
I've watched every episode of Stargate at least 5 times. Like
Oh.
no joke.
Okay. Well,
Like
that's fair.
it's not like a minor fan. Like I'm like how some people are Star Trek fans. I'm like
Uh huh.
I was that level of fan about Stargate. So when there just wasn't room for other shows and Doctor Who, I have watched all of Doctor Who except for the last 3 seasons or 4 seasons maybe
Well, that's
since
fair
the lady
because
came on. And it's not her fault. I just had a different like my life was different at that time.
yeah. Well, I mean, Moffat was kind of the show maker, but he was also the show destroyer. He really screwed up by just shitting on Christopher Eccleston.
I actually I shouldn't even say that because like I've also watched like the Dollhouse, for example. I would qualify as science fiction since it involves futuristic world where we can change people's brains. And Serenity, Firefly, which is like in my gold star of space opera, cowboy space opera, fantastic.
Yes.
And I do have some thoughts about why it was so good too.
Okay. So
Uh,
basic
yes.
basic sci-fi show theory is you always start from the third season. any series that has 3 or more seasons, you always start from the beginning of the 3rd season. And it really,
Really?
yeah, it really sucks, but it's an understandable thing because, the first 2 seasons, especially in a heavily serialized sci-fi show, it's really hard to get actors to, play together very well. I mean, everyone's feeling out each other, um, trying to get a hang of the style for the producers, the director, the other actors. It's incredibly difficult. I mean, uh, Star Trek: The Next Generation was slow as fuck and had no overarching plot throughout the entire series.
Yeah, this is actually related, but something I've noticed in like fantasy and science fiction. Not me though. Other people sometimes start series like 2 or 3 books in when the writer actually comes to grips with their material. Personally, I feel like you can see the bones of what's going to be coming together from the pilot episode, and so like I always watch the pilot episode to see like what they pitched and like watch it all the way through. I need to know the first run, every single bit of lore, if I'm gonna watch something at all. And I do like sometimes I sit down and like I'll binge whole shows. I just can't find the time anymore.
Well, and the most difficult thing is wanting to like a show, but the first 2 seasons really just kill it. Um, and it's true for just about every sci-fi show I've ever watched. Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis. Although,
Whoa, the first
Atla-
episode of Stargate SG-1 is one of my favorites. This is blasphemy.
okay, well, the reason why it's your favorite is because you get to see Share's tits. Okay, let's
No,
just be
it's my
honest.
favorite because Samantha says that you don't need a penis to play with toys. With the
Okay,
men's
okay.
toys, because that is the best, like hands down. I love that speech. I've gotten into arguments with other feminists who do not like it, but like personally to me, I was like, go get them.
Okay, well, Amanda Tapping is pretty awesome, and she actually had that line later in the series, but
That
she
was
never.
how I knew I was bisexual. Was she came on screen and I was like, yes, mama.
But to be fair, while the first episode was good, the rest of the 2 seasons really just dragged on.
I kind of view it as because I still like when I get sick, I usually do start in the first season, and I saw it as a like they were laying out the sketch of the theory of the show, right? And
Yeah,
so I like it because you can watch what becomes one of my favorite, obviously, favorite shows of all time develop and how they pull together these elements. I feel like the tasers, and this is way off subject, still don't quite make sense to me. But what I
all the
gathered from the show producers was that they put them in and then they had to stick with it.
the Zat Nicotels, yeah, they put them in just on a whim in the last episode of the first season, and they could not get rid of them.
Yeah, that was because that's one of the things that I had to go look up. I watched all these shows before producers came on the internet and explained their logic to you, and so that was one of those things that I had to circle back on later on and be like, why did they do that? Because it really does it's a constant show foil that shouldn't be there.
Yes, yes, it is. So one of the biggest theories when it comes to watching sci-fi is starting from the 3rd season, and I learned kind of the idea behind this. You're kind of teasing that those first 2 seasons by not starting with the first 2 seasons. Um, and we do something similar in Star Wars. there is a definitive watch order for Star Wars, and you do not start from Phantom Menace.
Who would do that?
Huh?
I said, who would do that? No, you're right. You're right. I so internalized this nerd culture that you said you don't start with Phantom Menace, and I agreed with you. Like I was like, yeah, of course you don't start with Phantom Menace.
Yeah, but then even younger millennials, they think, okay, well, Phantom Menace sucked, so you start with the Clone Wars. You don't start with the Clone Wars either. You start from A New Hope. From number 4, the very first Star Wars movie ever made.
Oh, yeah, of course you do.
So you go 4, 5, so A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, then you go back in time to the Clone Wars. So 2 and 3, Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith, and then 6, Return of the Jedi.
Okay, let me tell you how I watch them. I watch 4, 5, and 6, and then I turn it off.
That's completely accurate too.
They're perfect. No notes. The first 3 were the best thing that ever happened. We had them on Laserdisc growing up. I have watched them hundreds of times. I have no notes on that film, but when they introduced that Jar Jar Binks character, I was like, I think I'm done. Because it was too serious and not serious enough at the same time, and it was jarring.
Yes. I mean, if they cut out a lot of his stupid hijinks, the movie would have been just fine.
Oh, God.
But his hijinks
I have
killed
a theory.
all of it. Yes.
I have a theory on, like, one of the things that a lot of science fiction shows don't seem to do that I think that if they do it at the beginning makes the show better. And I'm going to actually cite the show Dollhouse, which is... Have you watched Dollhouse?
I have not.
Okay, I'm going to send you... So it's only 2 seasons. Josh Whedon did it. You start out in the first one, and it starts out where, like, the lady is, like, her brain gets wiped and she gets a new personality put on her, right? And, like, the first one is, like, exploring, like, what kind of things somebody like that would get sent on. And then he gets noticed that his show is going to be canceled, like, halfway through. And he switches it to his in-game plot, and it very quickly becomes an intense science fiction story about the end of civilization, right?
Yeah.
And the only reason it works, and I keep going back to it, is literally because when he was at the beginning of the story, he plotted out his character arc all the way to the end. And so when he was told his show was going to get canceled into the next season, he was able to very quickly get all the stuff out, and it made very good science fiction. And it also made me think that, like, just knowing how you're supposed to end it, like, makes the thing better, which they didn't do for Quantum Leap, right? Like, they didn't just end Quantum Leap when they should have.
Yes. I honestly think they could have gone longer with Quantum Leap.
Girl, no. What they should have done was they should have capped that adventure at the one character that ended, and they should have started all over with a whole new show and stopped trying to make that work, because they, in my opinion, they never recovered from their main character leaving, and it shouldn't have been, like, the concept was so good.
Oh, you're talking about the new Quantum Leap. How they shouldn't have made that.
No, I'm talking about the 90s Quantum Leap, sorry. Is there a new one?
Yeah, there was a new one back in 2022.
Oh, for real? Well, I have no knowledge of that, and I'm going to have to go look at that.
It's up on the server.
Okay.
So, the main character of Quantum Leap never left until the end of the show.
What are you talking about? Am I talking about the wrong science fiction show? There were, like, 2 shows at the same time where the person was constantly moving. Am I thinking of the wrong show?
I don't know. But
I'm gonna look this up.
Scott Bakula did the entire show run.
I will admit that I stopped. So just so you know, when you talk to me about pop culture stuff, I disconnected from cable in like 2002, which is way before anybody else did, and so like I am really out of certain cultural loops.
No, it's fine. So Scott Bakula did the entire 4-season show run of Quantum Leap, the original Quantum Leap, and then they did a pickup of Quantum Leap back in 2022. Brand new characters, but they reused the storyline.
Sliders. It was sliders. I'm bitching about
Sliders.
sliders.
Okay, so you're talking about the third season when John Rhys Davies got killed off.
Thank you. Yes, they should have ended it there.
I agree. They should have ended it there, but I mean, if they had just kept Jerry O'Connor around, it would have been fine. But
what they could have done is they could have ended that part of the series, right? Like, because we used to do this all the time back then. We used to have like we had SG-1, and then we had the Atlantis one that sucked, and then the other one that you told me was good that I should check out, Universe, right? Mm-hmm. Like we used to have like all sorts of iterations of things. So what they should have done is that they should have ended that version of Sliders, right? And then use that story to be the springboard of the next story, and let all of the characters from it drop so that they could start fresh. Because if I recall, like trying to get people that were in the previous 3 years, like was a continuing staffing issue too. And they kept having to change their stories. Whatever. I don't watch TV because it always disappoints me.
Oh yeah, no,
I get mad.
I completely agree. So when it comes to Sliders, if they had kept Jerry O'Connell around and Sabrina Lloyd, who played Wade Wells in the show, things would have been just fine. But in between the third and the fourth season, they basically killed off Sabrina Lloyd. And so it was only Jerry O'Connell and the guy that played Rembrandt Brown after that. And then at the end of...
I forgot that name, Rembrandt Brown.
Yeah, who was played by Clement Derricks.
Those are both a lot of name. Like, both the actor and the character have too much name.
So, by the beginning of the fifth season, there was only one of the original cast around, and that was the guy that played Rembrandt. And it just dragged the entire show down. Just absolutely dragged the entire show down because they replaced both Quinn's brother and Quinn with one actor that took the place of Quinn.
Oh, that's why my memory has him in the wrong drawer. It's because he has a QU first name and Quantum Leap starts with QU. I do that really often with words.
Interesting tidbit about Sliders. When the fourth season started and the character Quinn found his brother from another world, can you guess who they got to play Quinn's brother?
Was it the actor's brother?
It was the actor's brother. His name is Charlie O'Connell.
Oh, that's a normal amount of names.
Yeah, so Jerry O'Connell and Charlie O'Connell played on the same show together. Hilariously enough, they also played in a movie together.
What movie?
Let me pull it up here. It was an early 2000s movie that had Jennifer Love Hewitt in it. let's see. Can't. Oh, okay. So it was a late '90s movie. Can't Hardly Wait.
Oh, not familiar.
Um, it's got Jennifer Love Hewitt, Ethan Embry, Charlie Korsmo, Lorraine Ambrose. Oh,
Was
and
it
it's
like
got
a romance?
it's a coming of age, professing this kid's love for this girl that he's had a crush on ever since he saw her the first day of high school. Um, it's also got Peter Fasinelli, who played what's his name, Carlisle in the Twilight series.
I remember the Twilight series. That was a pretty good one. They should
Yeah.
do more stuff like that. Okay, so at the beginning of this, I thought we were going to talk about why people aren't making good science fiction anymore. And I
Yes.
do want to talk about that because
Mm-hmm.
I think it goes actually hand in hand with why we have so many school shootings and the irony poisoning that our youth are going through. If you look at the subcultures that are growing and are experiencing like a sense of community and well-being and optimism, you find like there's strong Afrofuturism writing going on, as well as like queer fiction. I recently picked up a book called Persephone Station that was recommended to me as a really great science fiction book that was recently written. But I think that like young white boys who were our primary source of science fiction previously are not dreaming of the future and life in space. They're here on Earth looking at cryptocurrency, and they are doing the equivalent of the lotus eaters in the Percy Jackson books. You know, like they're where they are in the internet, and they're not dreaming of a future for mankind because they're very focused on these personal indulgences and creature comforts and like owning the car they want and being a part of cryptocurrency and all of this, instead of dreaming about going up into space and like exploring the cars. They're on Twitter exploring with Elon Musk the fact that he has a business that might go into space with people to Mars someday.
Well, I think that's part of the problem. I think another part of the problem is the nostalgia bug. The Memba berries. I remember. Do
hate
you remember?
nostalgia stuff because it's not like you could do it well done. Like if you took, for example, just like a piece of writing that's laying around that I don't think had a really good film to it. Robert Heinlein wrote a book called The Puppet Masters about, and I'm sorry to anybody for spoiling a book that was written in the 1950s, I believe. But these aliens come down from outer space, and like the first people who tour the spacecraft, the alien slides down their back and starts mind controlling them, and they start to take over the world. But they actually figure out like how to beat the aliens because the aliens don't get horny like humans. And I think that this is an evergreen plot actually. And so the way that they figure out who's being controlled by the aliens that ride people is they strut like a hot bitch past them, and then if they react to it, they're like, oh, well, that guy. And so they use like sexuality to like catch them. And I think that gives the opportunity for Americans love our sex in our movies, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
there's a really good science fiction bone story there, is what I'm trying to say, that they could steal. And the book itself is written to feel nostalgic. It's written to feel like a noir film, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of rich material to draw from, but people are so nostalgic for like the things that they've done over and over again, instead
Yeah.
of finding like a hidden gem that people missed over. Like The Door into Summer, another one of his books, has a science fiction theme of like he goes into a sleep and wakes up in the future, like Idiocracy.
Yes. Well, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about things that feel nostalgic. I'm talking about things that they made and then they decided to remake. I mean, we have a third Tron movie coming out this year.
And who asked for that?
I didn't. I think they could have stopped it at the first one. I was excited for Tron Legacy. I saw it. I loved it. But, you kill off Jeff Bridges in the series and it's done. It's over. But no, they bring him back as a fucking program in the third movie.
I think that we as a species need, like, I won't go to the theater anymore. I'm just going to say this right now. If you try to get me with nostalgia and you just redo the same thing that's been on the screen, I won't go see the movie. I went and saw Mad Max Furiosa because I'd never seen a movie like that before, and it was incredible. And I don't care if you didn't like it; it wasn't for you. Not every movie needs to be for everybody. It was one of the best things I have ever seen. When that maggot crawled out of the skull, I eat. It was fantastic. My daughter and I saw it together. We were clinging to each other, full ride. Like, that's what I want in my films, is like, I didn't know what was going to come next. Stop giving me the same things that happens the same way every single time, because it's like the same recycled plot, and you'll get me to actually go to a movie theater. And I'm not sure why Hollywood hasn't figured this out.
So I mean, when it comes down to it, I think they're too nostalgic. I think these people grew up at a time where, it's all just recycled bullshit. I did not like the new Star Trek movies, the ones with Chris Pine. They weren't Star Trek.
I think part of the problem is that the boomers have run our society and our corporations and companies. Like, we have such an older level of people that they said, like, it's safe, and the kids liked it when they were a kid, so you might as well remake it, rather than like when you have younger leadership and they're more in touch with the youth. Like, the remaking Star Trek doesn't, like, that's not what represents the youth right now. They've got singing toilets saying skibbity.
Well, and it's the same problem over and over. I mean, especially with Star Trek, it's always the same. They're going back and they're trying to fill in shit that they don't need to fill in. So So Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek New Worlds. This is all shit from a time that we know just about everything we can stand to know about the Star Trek universe. Go further. Picard was a good idea, but it didn't go far enough into the future of the Star Trek universe. You gotta put 100 years into the mix.
But people need to be dreaming about the future too. Like, we are all, not like in the good Buddhist way, so centered on the present right now and the past. Like, it doesn't feel like people are publicly living for the future anymore. And like, that kind of environment where people are inspired to do projects like that, I feel like on the other hand, like, I do want to blame the movie execs for always signing off on the same fucking project. But like, maybe we're not creating as good of things too because we're not dreaming big.
It could be. When it comes down to, especially for the Star Trek universe, if you're not going to lead off from a point in time that is not, 20, like, just a couple years ahead of where you ended, then you need to put at least 100 years between where you ended and where you're starting again. So
Yeah, that sounds
the
right.
the original series, there was about 80 years between uh the end of the original series movies and the beginning of the next generation. And there had been two other enterprises in between, uh, the Enterprise A, which had been commissioned in at the end of Star Trek 4 and shown through two more movies, Star Trek 5 and Star Trek 6. And then they had the the Enterprise B, which was part of Star Trek Generations, the seventh movie, was an Excelsior class, and then you filled in the Enterprise C during an alternate universe version of the Next Generation. So, I mean, leave some room so that you can fill that 100 years of history in during the new series.
I'm still hearing that people really just want to take the work of the previous generation instead of doing their own new work, or the new work is not being written though. Because like you're right. Like they should know to start. Like that makes logical sense. Of course you should do that. Why aren't they doing it?
I don't know. And I mean, I'm still writing my books. And yes, I'm working on a period of time that has a lot of information about it, but there's there's only information based around a certain number of characters. I want to build a periphery for that that era of Star Trek so that they can fill in another 100 years when they start a new series using that periphery information.
I also wonder, like sometimes it's cool that Star Trek is its own season or whole thing. Like, why do we don't revisit? Like, earlier I mentioned that I watched the Firefly and Serenity, and like we bring back stuff all the time. That's a universe I would love to know more about. The lead actor stated for the longest time that he wanted nothing more than to go back into that role. The fans loved it, and like I don't understand why stuff like that doesn't like why we don't have a space for stuff like that to get made. Like it seems like it should have been a sure thing.
Yeah, they kind of killed off the series with the movie, even though it came years after.
No, they made the movie because the series wasn't going to come back. Like
Yeah,
the movie was because he couldn't let it go and he had to actually tell the story. But I think that they could have gone back to the war, for example, that they reference that Civil War all the time.
yeah,
That the right, they could have gone back to that. They could have talked about how all four of them met. You know what I mean? Like there were other avenues still to go through that weren't in the movie, that like in that universe. And it was such a compelling universe. The style of the people, the way they dress, even a different story not focused on those main characters. I don't know. I really like that style of science fiction that feels like not so polished.
yeah. I agree. I enjoyed the series. I enjoyed the movie. I wanted more, but at the end of it all, I mean, Joss Whedon couldn't get it.
I want to see more space junkers like that. Like I feel like, and this is something that I actually don't particularly like about Star Trek. Like the imagined space vehicles that I see in Star Trek are all like the Lamborghinis of space travel. And like I love the idea of like a beat up like this is your clunker car type spaceship, you know? Because if you get far enough into space travel, those have to exist. There's got to be secondhand spaceships, right? I want to see more science fiction about like maybe not even utopian, because like maybe we humans don't currently believe that we can create a utopia. We're leaning far into fascism all over the world. There's a huge tilt towards what I consider it to be regression in our stage of development. I don't know how you view it, but I think that like when you look at how we grow up as human beings, oftentimes when we're about to go into the next stage of our lives, there's a real pulling back to the last stage. And I just kind of feel like as a species, because of the way that the internet has accelerated communication, we are evolving into our next stage. And what we're seeing right now is a tidal wave of regression because we have to grow up and become new ways of doing things to continue to scale the way that we've been in our technology and in our numbers. And like I see what we're going through as like a temper tantrum backlash to it because nobody really wants to have to change.
I have,
If that makes sense. So,
yeah, absolutely. I have an idea that expands a universe that no one has touched since the mid 80s.
tell me about it.
Do you remember the movie Flight of the Navigator?
No.
It's a story based around a kid who, on the 4th of July of 1978, was taken as a specimen to be studied by an alien intelligence, an automated alien intelligence, and the intelligence decided that it was too risky to time travel with him, and so returned him back to the same place on Earth, but 8 years later. But only 4 hours had gone by for this young kid.
Ooh, I like out of time stories like that. That's a good plot frame.
And the movie ended with the automated intelligence actually returning the main character back to the original time, along with one of the alien specimens that was on board the ship whose planet had been destroyed. It was very compelling, and honestly, if Disney wanted to run more movies, instead of running more in Tron, they should look at their other series. I mean, they did the Witch Mountain series, which already had 2 movies before they brought in The Rock. And now they've done 3 movies for Tron. No one has redone or expanded the universe for Flight of the Navigator. It was such a good movie.
Yeah. I think that sounds like I wish they would go back and find like if they're going to be too lazy to write something new. Something like that. Like something that hasn't been remade 18 times.
Yeah, I mean I'm if they're going to remake something or expand a universe that hasn't been touched in decades. I mean, I was
I'm sorry.
I was watching Flight of the Navigator last night, thinking this exact same thing. Expand this universe. I want to see it, and it's quite literally the only movie that I've seen that I liked Sarah Jessica Parker in.
there's a science fiction frame that I've read several times that I think would be super cool in a movie. Particularly now that the original like Mickey Mouse and like first cartoons have gone out of Disney's control, so you in theory could like use old cartoon characters for this. But there's like Simon Green did it with a pleasure world that had been abandoned, and it was occupied by like children's characters. But because the humans weren't there, they'd gone a little bit feral. And I know, right? As soon as you hear that, you're like, that's awesome. I really want to see that. I want to see that on screen so badly. Just like, and it doesn't have to be like, I think that's a Simon Green frame of it. I'm trying to think if there was like another science fiction, like, there's another frame of like all worlds are part of the same world, like expanded universe type thing. Robert Heinlein wrote The Number of the Beast as it, where they were traveling through, they thought time, but they were like landing in like storybooks, like they visited Oz, for example, and like that would be super fucking cool to like go through like science fiction stories of the past that have gone out of copyright so that you can, and like letting the visitor visit the world of like Alice in Wonderland, like a la Doctor Who. Like I'd like to see some of that. That'd be cool. I would watch that.
Yeah, so I mean, there are movie series that they should have just stopped years ago, like and this isn't a sci-fi series. The Fast and the Furious series should have ended with 7. It should have absolutely stopped at 7. It honestly should have been done with. Go ahead.
Okay, it should have been the Fast and the Furious, and then I would let them get away with Too Fast, Too Furious. But past that, I think you've got to draw the line on like, why do we need the expanded universe of carjacking?
Yeah. Well, and I enjoyed Tokyo Drift.
Oh, did you? I didn't watch it.
I think a series that they could expand on, I Am Number 4, came out in 2011. They did a great job with building characters. They did a good job building a universe. But I mean, when it comes to so many of these movies, like the Jurassic Park series, should have been done with 3. They made 4 more fucking movies.
My kid is always trying to get me to watch extra Jurassic Park movies, and I just like, the first one was a perfect movie, and that. I don't know, because like I'm just one of those people that like, unless you can come up with a compelling reason for me to watch a reboot of it, I've watched the same fucking Spider-Man 9 times. You can't get me to go see a Spider-Man again. There's no way. Like, I know the story. He gets bit by a spider. His uncle gets killed. Like, it's cool. I've been there. You know, well, I can't do another reboot of Spider-Man.
I think they did a good job with the Tom Holland series because that's not where they started it.
Oh, you got to start it elsewhere. Like, we all know Spider-Man's origin story, okay? We're good for a whole fucking generation. They get to start somewhere else.
Yeah, well, I mean, we saw the Tobey Maguire, the Garfield, and now the Tom Holland movies. They did not start from his origin. They started from at least a year after that had all happened, because they actually incorporated him into the Avengers series, which is where they originally wanted to take the first 2, but they could never get it off the ground.
I think right now, if I was going to be somebody that wanted to invest in science fiction, I would go the direction of post-apocalyptic science fiction, because it ties in with people's feelings that the world is ending right now. and also allows you to explore science fiction themes. Have you watched any post-apocalyptic fiction?
Planet of the Apes.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. One of my favorite ones is She Wolves of the Apocalypse. There's like one guy left whose sperm all the girls want, and they like shuffle him around. Anyway, remember that Twitter argument that you caught me in the one time where the guy thought that if he was like the only man on Earth, that he wouldn't be the world's most like pampered slave?
Yeah.
I think that was you, right? Yeah. Like,
Yep.
anyways, basically the plot of that movie. I think that like exploring like the boy and his dog one, or like the classic like the people who live underground, Metropolis maybe might be it. No, I think I'm actually conflating Metropolis and A Boy and His Dog with the same one. So I think that like this nostalgia that perhaps like would kick us out of our rut would be to reach back into that specific science fiction bag, because that's like kind of how people are feeling right now. Like it's all collapsing and we are living in the collapse. And so the answer to that is, okay, what comes next? And if you're looking at feeling like your society is collapsing, logically what comes next is what comes after the apocalypse.
Yeah, here's another season or another series that should have just ended after the first movie. Mission Impossible.
Girl, no, that is so accurate. I agree. Mission Impossible. Also, no offense to the Charlie's Angels, but like after the one where they had the Destiny's Child song, like we don't need any more.
Yeah, agreed. And then Pacific Rim, I would like to see them finish out the series, but I think they screwed everything up with the second movie. I don't
I'm
think
gonna be
they
a
can
dick here.
recover.
James Bond needs to end, or it needs to get turned into a multiracial, multi-gender fantasy of spy thing where you like Doctor Who, where it's just not like fancy white dude travels the world and has sex with girls, because like there's just something that doesn't translate into this era about James Bond.
I think they are done with James Bond.
Are they? Oh my goodness. Okay.
They killed Bond in the last movie.
Yeah, but then they like say they were gonna give his number to a new agent.
They already gave his number to a new agent, and he took it back and then killed him off. And they retired the number.
I'm so sorry. I stopped watching James Bond movies after I think the second to last, Tomorrow Never Dies, maybe.
Okay,
it's
so
not
Pierce
that it
Brosnan.
was bad. Yeah, it's not that it was bad. It was that, like, what made James Bond to me was the camp of the era that it was in. When, like, Bambi and Thumper beat his ass, which is, like, by far the hottest thing that's ever happened in a movie. Like, what makes that scene is that they're dressed in the 70s exercise gear, and it's from a different era. Like, James Bond just doesn't translate into the vibes of the 2000s, you know?
I know how to kill the funk that we're in with sci-fi.
Ooh, what?
Another Mel Brooks movie, like Spaceballs.
Okay, so you could not go wrong with Mel Brooks. I have to say that I'm trying to think of a Mel Brooks movie that I don't like, and I'm struggling here. You had me at Mel Brooks, though. But is the old man up for it?
Well, I mean, he doesn't have to be up for acting in it, but he needs to be directing it. I mean,
I love Mel Brooks so much.
Spaceballs was such a good way to revive the Star Wars series in such a non-serious fashion.
Have you seen Silent Movie?
Yes.
That is one of my all-time favorite movies to get high with a friend to. And I think you're onto something with Mel Brooks. I actually like to combine the idea of Mel Brooks with my post-apocalyptic fiction thing
Mm-hmm.
because I do think that making fun of the end of the world is probably something that we need to do right now because we need to get over all of our collective horror at the way that things are going and the way that they've been. And like, I get it from the time that I became a legal adult, like I'm not even joking. I became a legal adult in June, and then in September, 9/11 happened. And my entire adult life has just been like one after another catastrophe. There's like it's kind of just like the symbol of like the American empire crumbling in on itself, right? With the housing collapse and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And I understand this deep rooted to like they killed my science fiction dreams. You know, like I read a lot of urban fantasy instead because I still am into escapism. But now in my escapism, there's an alternate reality on top of my own where things are just as crazy, but like different. Does that make sense? And so like because like
Absolutely.
it was like I did want to go to the stars. You know, I grew up on Robert Heinlein. He's my childhood favorite author, and he influenced so much of my life and my decisions and how I've chosen to educate myself. And like, I know that you probably have gotten on by now that I know how to do a lot of things, and it's because he taught me that specialization was for the insects. You know,
Yeah.
um, he taught me that women should be able to fight back. He taught me a lot of things that I really value in life, but like sometime around the time when I started to see men in my country talk about women like we were actually going to live the handmaid's tale, I started to indulge in fiction that felt like it was written for women by women because I am trying to escape where I am when I read fiction.
Absolutely. When it all comes down to it, I think we've come to the conclusion: stop running series for more than 3 movies, and these writers should know
Do it
when
in a
a series
triptych.
is dead.
Yeah, you got to do it in a triple. If you can't do it in a triple, you got to stop. It's just the whole. And I'm trying to think. I think horror movies are the only genre besides the Fast and the Furious I can think of that they really did this to. But like, we had so many fucking Halloween movies before they finally stopped that shit, Erica.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
they've
don't know why we want to beat a dead horse to death so badly, like as a like in America as like a filmmaking culture. I don't know if like other filmmaking centers do it the same way we do.
they've done it with the Alien and the Predator series as well. And one of my coworkers, just anytime one of the new movies comes out, he is always happy about it. And I'm like, stop. Just
It's
fucking
flop.
stop. It's done. It's over. It's no good anymore.
People need to stop settling for less. This is like a side topic, but like whatever in my life somebody offers me the worst version of something, I say fuck you and I just leave. If I'm in a Discord and I get automatically timed out because I used a bad word, I leave. If I'm on Twitter and somebody screenshots Grok instead of making their own point to argue with me, fucking block their ass. Like I'm just done with this shit.
Okay, well, I
All right.
think that
Mild
that's a
rant.
good. No, that's okay. I think that's a good place to leave off. Would you like to continue this discussion next week?
Yes, yes. And I'd like to add in like a little bit of like I don't know if I'll have time this week to really look into it, but like a little bit about like the history of American science fiction. Because when I said earlier my point about young white men not dreaming about going out into space and writing and then being like a traditional source of like pulp science fiction. Um, like I actually I feel like there's a lot of historical evidence for that.
I would agree. Um, okay, given all of that, we are going to say our goodbyes and sign off. Um, any final thoughts, Liz?
Um, I really want to see people elevate creativity, and I think that overwhelmingly the major unspoken culprit of this entire thing is capitalism and the ways that it makes the major conglomerates lean towards the safe and easy remakes instead of green lighting edgy projects that might have a chance of either pissing off the public or delighting them depending on how they take it, which is where interesting lives.
Okay, and given that, we are going to go ahead and sign out with the music. I hope everyone enjoys the episode. We will see you all in a week or two.